Well, hello everybody. It's Monday. Monday is go back to work day. The weekend's over and time to get up and go back to work. And I'm taking a little break here, taking a lunch break here at work. But I felt like I needed to make a video because today, being Monday, and I've explained in my first video how I'm tired of driving a truck. But it's what I do. So, uh, yeah, it's hard to get up though on Mondays, and you don't want to get up and don't want to go to work, and just not not a lot of interest in it. And the weekend's never long enough. But a while back, I decided that I could do my work one of two ways, and maybe God, I'm sure God led me to this revelation, maybe you'll call it. But I could do my work, one of two ways. I could go to work every day and I could just be miserable throughout the whole day and deal with everybody, that I run into, as a miserable person. And, but that's not the way a Christian, should go about their day for sure. We're to be a light in this world. We're to show Christ's love in no matter what we do. And so the other, way was, I could do my work unto the Lord as the Bible, tells you to, and, you don't get up and go to work every day. You go to work for an employer, but ultimately, whatever you do for your occupation, you're to do unto God. You're to do it as Christ would do it. And work is an important part of life. God works. God worked. He worked 6 days creating everything. And then the seventh day he rested, and we should, rest. We should have a Sabbath day, a day of rest. Go to church, recharge. You should have that. But yeah, work. God, made Adam to work in the garden. That's what Adam was supposed to do. Because he was meant to be sort of caretaker, and so yeah, work is part of life for everybody, and or it should be. If you don't work, you don't eat, as the Bible also says. So yeah, I decided I would do my work for God, and that's what I've done for quite a while now. And it's it's a lot better attitude to have, and helps with dealing with a lot of things. Driving a truck. I'm driving the truck, for God. I'm employed by a company, ultimately an owner, and he reaps the benefits from that. Because I get up in the morning and I go to work for God. I don't call off, because I'm supposed to go to work, and I got to go to work, because God wants me to go to work. And and if I call off, maybe there's a purpose for that day that God has for me. And if I call off, I might miss out on that. Maybe I'm to run into somebody and just be an example of Christ, maybe get a chance to talk to them and, save their soul. You just don't know what God might have in store for you. So, get up and go to work. And all throughout my day, I try, prayer is a big part of it. Pray before you start your work, pray as you're doing your work, be, in this truck, sort of make God your passenger, your co-pilot is, I see the license plates and bumper stickers. God is my co-pilot. Well, yeah, God should be your co-pilot no matter what you're doing, whether you're driving a truck or you're working in a hospital or, working a construction job, God should be there with you if you're a Christian. So it's just a lot better way to do your work is when you're doing it for God and, making God part of your work. And it's a much better, much more peaceful way to do your work, even if you're in, an occupation that, you might not like your job, you might hate your job, but if you're doing that job for God and, always being grateful to have a job, there's people you might hate your job, but there's somebody out there might love to have your job. I'm sure there probably is. And, even me, even though I'm, tired of it, I've done it for a very long time, there's lots of people that would love to, do what I do. And, I know that, and I'm very grateful for a job. And I'm, my goal is not, is not to quit working entirely. I just want to change, what I do for a living. And whatever change that may be, I need to do that for God too, whatever it might be. And so, yeah, it's, but, going through your day, doing your work for God, it gives you a higher purpose. You're not just, working for the company, because they tell you have to, do this or do that. It's a lot easier to be told what you have to do when you think of, it's not this person, they're just, they're just a mouthpiece, they got to tell you what to do. But, ultimately, God wants you to do that. So, it's a lot better. It's harder to get mad when it's, you're doing it for God and not just doing it for a person. It's very easy, get mad at a person. In trucking we have dispatchers and, notorious animosity between drivers and dispatchers, that dispatchers just, telling you what to do, and, and you have a tendency sometimes to just, despise that, and, and you forget, it's not that dispatcher, he's got a job to do too, and, so, if that dispatcher is just a messenger, it's God that wants you to do whatever that dispatcher is telling you to do. So you go do the best that you can do at that task. And, Christ gave us an example. Christ was, the Son of God. Christ is God. And, he came to this earth. And, he could have come to this earth, whatever he wanted to, come here as. He could have come here as a king in a palace, but he didn't. He, God, Jesus, came to this earth, and he became a carpenter. He worked with his hands. He, was, I guess you could call him, working class, middle class. He did that, until it was time for his ministry. But he worked on this earth in a, labor type job. And, if Christ can do it, then, we can too. That's an example that he set for us. So, and sometimes you think, well, whatever you do, like, I'm just a truck driver, and especially in Protestant, churches, there's a lot of, I've heard a lot of, what are you doing for the kingdom, and people want to, lots of people want to get into a ministry or start a ministry or, and I've known people that, they've been very blessed by, being able to do that, to, work, do God's work in a ministry, full time, and that's just wonderful, and that's their calling. And one person that I know, was always saying, yeah, but what are you doing for the kingdom? You go to, some of us have to go to work. We have to go to a job, out in the world, and and not, we maybe we're not called to be in full-time ministry, in that setting. God, the world needs construction workers, truck drivers, nurses, factory workers, warehouse workers, there's all types of Christians. And yeah, so, what are you doing for the kingdom? What you do for the kingdom, doesn't always have to be this, like you're having tent revivals or, out on the street corner, preaching. God bless the people that do that, but we're not all called to that. I think the majority of Christians, our calling, is to go to whatever job we're called to do and do that as Christ would do it and show people, this is Christ in me. That I'm a light, in this dark world, in this dark, evil world, a lot at times, we're to be a light in that world, show Christ's love to people. And just that's, that's our, the average Christian's ministry is in your job and the people you come across, how you deal with them. Am I going to be a cranky truck driver, or am I going to treat that people, that person, am I going to treat that person with the respect that they deserve as one of God's children? And, life is a lot better when you remember that person. That's another one of God's children, whether they're following God or not, that's God's child that you're dealing with at the time, and you should treat them as such. And in doing that, they can see, Christ in you, and and hopefully they'll be like, just in your day-to-day interactions, it's like, wow, something different about that guy, that Christian guy, he's kind of funny, but wow, I like it, he's maybe I want some of what he's got. I'm gonna ask him some questions. What's this Jesus you're talking about? And there's your opportunity to work for the kingdom. Or maybe they don't say nothing to you, but as you do your job for Christ, and they admire it. Maybe they and maybe they go search for God, and because of interactions with you, hopefully that's hopefully that's the way that works. But yeah, that's what you need to do for the kingdom. Most of us is go to work and do your job as Christ would do it. The old what would Jesus do thing, and just an example for me, I'm driving around in this truck, and just being in a truck just makes people mad. You get in their way, and you're not even doing nothing intentionally. I'm just moving this truck down the road. I was in Cleveland the other morning, and twice, once on the passenger side and once on the driver's side, I was passed by cars on the shoulder just because, I'm in their way and holding them up. I'm doing 65 miles an hour, and I believe it was a 60-mile-per-hour zone. So, but they think nothing of jumping on that shoulder and passing you and then cutting you off. One of them, he whipped in front of me and hitting the brakes. And I can deal with that one of two ways. I can get all mad and, maybe go get up on his bumper and honk the horn and, scream profanities at him, but that's not, that's not the right thing to do. I pray for that person, let them go, let them go about their day, whatever. They hit the brakes, I hit the brakes, and they'll give up, and leave. And I say a prayer for that person, and hopefully they go away and hopefully God works on them, but that's just an example of, how to deal with that as a Christian, in your job, no matter what it might be. You have two choices to make, on how you deal with work and your job and situations at work. And, you can do it in a way that makes other people miserable and yourself miserable, or you can do it God's way. And that's a lot more peaceful, a lot more positive. And, say a little prayer for people and God will intervene. And, then you're doing, just doing your job every day. You're doing kingdom work. That's what the majority of us as Christians, that's our calling. Not everybody can be a minister or a priest, or, most of us aren't called to do that. We're called to be out in the world and, be in the world but not of the world. Show the world Jesus Christ in you and in your life so that they want some of that. They're like, man, that guy, look at him. He's peaceful. He's, I want some of that. I'm going to, get a relationship with this Jesus too, And hopefully that's the way it works when you go to work for God, not for yourself, not for, your employer. Your employer ultimately will reap the benefits, and they'll have a good employee, better than, a lot of the other employees that are just coming to work to get their paycheck, and that's all they care about. Your employer is going to get a good worker, a hard worker, a person that shows up every day, and and just one more thing, it's not, I'm not perfect. Being a Christian doesn't make you perfect, and I have my days when I'm not so perfect, and you just gotta pray about that. And Christ doesn't call you to be perfect. Christ calls you to do the best you can do to follow him, and do his work and follow him. And yeah, read the Bible. The disciples, none of them were perfect, and we don't need to be perfect either. So yeah, go to work every day. Do it for God. It'll be a lot better. So thank you for your time.